Good evening and welcome into Tennessee Volunteers live on the Voice of College Football Network. Tucker Harlan, Jordan Binkley with you on this Monday evening here in Tennessee. Hope you guys had a terrific weekend, had a happy and safe 4th of July. We thank you all for being here. And if you would, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee Volunteers live on the Voice of College Football Network. Really helps us out, really helps you get closer to all the content you enjoy. And we are fastly approaching football season now. We are, I guess, a little less than a week now, Jordan, from SEC Media Days. It will have started by this point, so it's beginning to get real. I know there's some high school media days going on here within the next couple weeks in the Knoxville area. So it's coming. It's coming really fast. But again, glad you guys could be with us. Hope you all had a happy and safe 4th. Did not lose any body parts to the fireworks or any of that.
Shout out to JPP.
We don't want any of that here. We don't want to hear about any of that. So glad all of you could be with us. And it was a happy 4th for a lot of different college football programs across the country. As we've talked about many times over the last couple months, right now we are in the most important period in college football recruiting. And we had Ryan Shumpert on last week. We talked about 4 commitments Tennessee got in the span of one weekend, pretty much. And since then, Tennessee has gotten 4 more commitments. And later this week, Tennessee could get 4 or potentially more commitments in the class. So that class size is beginning to balloon for Tennessee. And we'll jump straight into the guys that Tennessee landed since we last met on here. And I think pretty much the day after, it was that Tuesday, Tennessee got 3 guys in the span of 1 hour, 2 of which we discussed with Ryan Shumpert last week, potentially committing. And of course they did. The Jackson Academy duo from Mississippi, Darian Albert and TJ White. I'll look into Darian Albert first. And I would say of everybody, he jumps out the most of these commitments Tennessee has received. Jordan, your initial thoughts on Darian Albert?
Well, you were telling me about his to go check his highlights out, and I did. And man, like he's a lot more explosive than I thought for his size. Like he's listed at 305. Very quick, got pretty good instincts. I saw a couple of plays where like the play was about to be going right behind him, like throwing screen passes. He would see it like right on the spot, make a play. Looks like most of them were like tackles for loss. And when I was doing a little bit of research on him, I saw something very interesting. Apparently, like when he was a freshman in high school, he had 96 tackles, 24 for a loss with 8 sacks and 2 forced fumbles as a freshman.
96 just for a defensive lineman is impressive.
Yeah. So he, pretty good. And I mean, his stats like pretty much stayed the same for the most part. But I mean, like I said, pretty quick. I don't know. And he can pass rush better than you'd think for an interior defensive lineman, which is always a plus, of course. But yeah, the tackles for loss and everything. I mean, he looks pretty good and he's got the size as well.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that jumped out to me. He does have some twitch to him. He's got an ability to make tackles in the open field, which I think is a quality that you don't always look for in defensive linemen, but it's welcome. It's like blocking wide receivers. It's not the first thing you want them to do, but it is appreciated if they can do it. But what really jumped out at me was not really the speed. It was the raw strength he possesses. This is a kind of guy that will run into blocks and basically turn offensive linemen into extra tacklers and use that as an advantage, which is always a good trait you like to see in defensive linemen. So like that, 6'2", 305 before his senior year of high school. So already standing at SEC size. And, the name that came to mind just from recent Tennessee teams that I could compare him a little bit to, at least from a size standpoint, is Omar Norman Lotz. A guy that is not the tallest on the defensive line. Not to say 6'3" isn't tall, but he's built down low, and he can just he can be the bull rusher there in the interior of that defensive line, and those are the kind of guys you look for. Just being absolutely nasty, eating the double teams for lunch, everything you want in an interior defensive lineman. So again, Rodney Garner finding all of the good defensive linemen on the recruiting trail, and he certainly picked up a good one, Darion Albert. I would say of the highlight reels, this one, it's not quite up there with Legend Bay. I don't know if you got to see any of his, Jordan, but
Yes.
oh yeah, I got very excited watching Legend Bay, and I did with Albert too. But two guys that can just absolutely make opponents' lives miserable, and you're all for that if you're a Tennessee fan.
Yeah, I mean, both of their highlight reels were pretty crazy. I know, like, I didn't get a chance last week during the show to check out Legend Bay's highlights, but you told me that I had to go look them up, and I was looking them up about an hour or two ago. And man, like almost every play that he had was like 40 yards or like 30 yards, and just so dangerous, the ball in his hand. I would love to see some trick plays with him at Tennessee.
Yeah, and that's something we didn't mention last week with Ryan on the show, but I really do think that is something you could experiment with in the Heupel offense, because you just haven't had many of those kinds of guys come through the program. Of course, he's listed as a quarterback out there in North Forney, but he, I mean, as a quarterback, he can make some very difficult throws. Obviously, he's not going to play over Faison, but you use him in a Wildcat package, suddenly that makes it adds a whole element of danger to your offense, is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, between him and Albert, those are my two favorite personally that I've watched so far. But Albert was the first commitment last week, although his teammate did commit at the same time with him. That, of course, being TJ White, who they use as an outside linebacker. And he's impressive from just from his speed. I really like what you got out of this guy. He's a terrific angle tackler. He delivered some pretty violent hits too in that highlight reel. Of course, that's what you expect out of a linebacker. But I really do think William Inge is doing a great job with this group, and hopefully a guy that can continue to bring in more quality commitments at the linebacker position, because it's not been one of the stronger points of Tennessee in the Heupel era. It's not quite as much of a laughingstock as, say, the defensive back room is, or at least was for the first couple of seasons. But you had no depth back there for 2 seasons, and your linebacker play was okay. I mean, Aaron Beasley was nice, but you look past that, it's just like you didn't have a ton of quality linebacker play those first few years. I know Jeremy Banks was a good tackler. Keenan Peely, of course, gets injured in 2023 and then again in 2024. So your depth was really tested there in years in which you thought you finally had depth. But now it feels like Inge is really starting to bring in the quality prospects for this group.
Yeah, I mean, I liked what I saw from TJ White as well. And I mean, it's pretty cool that him and Albert are teammates and both committed on the same day. But I mean, you were talking about his speed. I mean, he weighs 230 pounds. I have him listed as 6'1 and a half, 230. But he also was a track runner too. And I'm not like, I don't know too much about track, didn't run or never ran it, but I said he ran 11.65 100-meter dash. And I know 100 meters usually where the quickest guys are.
Yeah.
And then like last season, pretty good, 102 tackles. And that's from like the outside backer position too. Not even talking about a middle linebacker. I mean, so he was racking them up. And yeah, I saw a couple of those big hits that you were talking about. I think there was one play where the quarterback luckily got rid of the football in time. And you like see him at the end of the frame just get absolutely leveled by TJ White. Really exciting to see everything with him.
Yeah, I'm very excited about TJ White. Dallas, we are feeling great, my friend. We are feeling great about the situation with Tennessee football recruiting. Would like to see more 4 stars come in, and there's potential for that this week. But I'm really liking what we're seeing right now. Just what Tennessee's brought in with him, and you mentioned linebacker speed, Jordan. Um, I hate to say it, and I'm not going to name names, but Tennessee has been plagued by slow outside linebacker play for, I mean, really the last decade and a half. I mean, there's been at least one guy each year that's just like, oh, man, we got to have faster linebackers. We got to have faster linebackers.
Is not good when, like, I mean, Tennessee's defensive ends as of late have been faster than the linebackers. I mean, James Pierce, we saw his speed and everything. Like, I mean,
What is it?
I was reading the comment.
Oh, I could show you the comment. I could show you the comment. If you had to choose Keys or Hyder, I'm assuming is what that is, as your lock in and you secure the commit, are you going receiver or running back? There are no running backs in this class currently. So I would lean toward running back, maybe. Unless you want to get guys out of the portal, in which case that might work. Because you've already got some wide receivers, in Zayden Anderson and Tyreek King, and I'll talk later about it in the show. But I do think there is potential for more development there as well. But no, Hyder would be a big one because you look at who he's deciding between. It's a pretty stout list of colleges, and that'd be a big win for Tennessee in high school recruiting, which may still have some importance, contrary to popular belief.
Yeah, I would be really excited if Tennessee got Hyder. I mean, I know that Tennessee hasn't had the best luck with 5-star running backs. I mean, we know what happened with Bryce Brown, and then Jalen Hurd was great while he was playing at Tennessee, but he ended up transferring out and everything. So if Hyder did somehow come to the Vols, I mean, maybe he can change it around, and then maybe could inspire some more future 5-star running backs to
Yeah.
come.
And running backs too, I guess with the stars, it's not nearly as important. You'd like to have a 5-star running back if you can get one, but they don't grow on trees anymore. Just the way that position has been devalued. But at the same time, it's like the Heupel offense. It's centered around the run. You want to have good running backs coming through there. So I think I'm going to say running back on this one. All right, so 2 more commitments from this past week. One of them was on the same day as the 2 commitments from Jackson Academy. In fact, literally an hour later, this is an in-state commitment from cornerback Jamian Theodore. First cornerback, by the way, to commit in the class. He is a 3-star from the Baylor School in Chattanooga. That is the second commit from Baylor that Tennessee has gotten. Of course, the first was from 5-star offensive lineman Gabriel Osenda earlier on in the cycle. And I was watching some tape from him, and I think my biggest question is, how is this guy going to translate against SEC wide receivers? And I guess we're just not going to know until he gets there. I'm assuming for now he could be a little bit of a project. But looking at the highlight reel, he's got some instinctual things down nicely. I think he breaks on the ball really well. So he's making some nice plays in coverage. But another guy too that has the potential to help you out a lot on special teams. Just looking at some of the things he posted in his reel, I noticed 2 blocked field goals in there.
Yeah.
So that's something that Tennessee could use. And then the other thing I saw was a down punt within the 1-yard line. So maybe you make him a gunner on your punt team. Who knows? So I'm not saying he won't see the field as on defense, but I do think he will require a little bit of work with Willie Martinez before he gets there. But overall, I do like what I see from him. It's just, again, how does it translate to SEC play?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good question. And I mean, I didn't get to see as much of his highlights as the other two players that we mentioned, but I mean, he seemed like pretty good. Like there was this one play that I liked of his where the quarterback was like he was throwing it to the left side of the field, and he was about in the center of the field, but he had his back turned to the play and saw it and was able to turn around. And I can't remember if he broke the pass up or if he got an interception. Anyways, like, I mean, pretty impressive. I mean, I know I couldn't turn like that.
No. You gotta be able to do that, and corner is another position where you've got to have amnesia. Got to be able to flush out the next play. So hopefully he's a guy that can do that for this team. I did also see where this will be. I think he's just.
Thank you, Posty.
Posty here is impressed by Jordan's mustache. Only Kirby Connell can rival it. He's highly impressed by that mustache of yours, Jordan. But I do hope this is a guy that works in the system. Again, you love to get the in-state recruits if you can. What I was going to say was he moved in from somewhere up in Ohio. I want to say Northern Ohio, just maybe a year ago or something, and it came to Baylor. So would be cool to see Tennessee start a little bit of a pipeline down there with Baylor, because that's now potentially 3 guys coming here within the same season in 2026 and maybe into 27, with Amari Jefferson coming in from Alabama. Of course, he was originally committed to Tennessee for baseball to Tony Vitello before flipping to Alabama, where he played his freshman season. So that is commit number 3 of last week. And Tennessee had a nice surprise on the 4th of July. I don't know how much of a surprise it actually was, but he was leaning pretty heavily to Tennessee. And that is defensive lineman Darrell Rivers, 3-star from the Atlanta area, one that many SEC programs are very familiar with. And I got to watch the tape here a little bit. Another guy that kind of strikes me as a little bit of a project. Rodney Garner, obviously a great identifier of talent on the defensive line, so I trust any decision he makes. But just looking at the tape, he's got nice pursuit, but really not a ton of power right now. I mean, it doesn't flash like Darion Albert does just yet. And a guy that just he didn't stand out nearly as much as some of these other commitments that Tennessee's gotten. And of course, it helps too with a guy like Theodore. He's playing out there alone at corner, so you see him a lot. But a guy like that on the defensive line, unless you're like Darion Albert and are just a true game record, it can be a little hard to stand out.
Yeah, see, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see his highlights before the show, but I'm watching a little bit of him right now. I see what you're saying about Rivers being a project. I mean, we'll see how he ends up with the coaching and everything. Of course, I will trust Rodney Garner until he fails Tennessee. But a little bit slower off the ball than I would hope. Stands up a little bit, or at least from the few highlights I just saw. But a decent tackler there for sure. And then I don't know. I'm no football scout. I did play a little defensive line, but I trust Rodney Garner. I mean, you can develop a lot. I remember, I forget what player he was. I can't remember if he ended up going to Miami or what, but there was that defensive end that was making waves on social media about 4 or 5 years ago when he was coming out of high school, and he was doing those bag drills. And I remember everyone was clowning on him because of his hand placement and everything like that. And then he ended up getting drafted to the NFL and everything. So, I mean, there's always time to turn it around and everything. And like I said, too, I just saw a couple clips. But that was just a couple of things I noticed.
Yeah. So you've got some potential to work there if Rodney Garner sees it. But I think it may be a minute before he sees the field for Tennessee. Maybe 3 years in, potentially, if he doesn't transfer out before then. But you never know. You never know with these guys. So a quick recap of what Tennessee's got already, or what it doesn't have, maybe is the quicker way to do this. I mentioned this with Dallas' comment earlier. No running backs just yet, but Savion Hyder is in the mix. He's not dropped a commitment date just yet, although I do think he said it was coming soon. So we should know pretty soon when he'll be committing. Outside of that, of course, you got your two quarterbacks, or what is technically a quarterback in Legend Bay. Doubt he actually plays much for Tennessee. You've got two wide receivers in Tyreek King and Zayden Anderson in the class. You got two offensive linemen in Gabriel Ascenda and Edward Baker. I still have Carson Snead, despite the fact that he is taking visits elsewhere. Most recently, I think he was at Florida, maybe. Saw some pictures of him in Florida gloves. So he's still shopping around. He hasn't decommitted yet, but I don't think he's 100% committed either. Defensive line, you are now up to, what is that, 5 guys? You've got Rivers and Albert last week, Kedrick Golston right before that, and then you got the other two in C.J. Edwards and Zach Groves, the in-state commitment from East Robertson High School up there in Middle Tennessee. 2 linebackers now with T.J. White. Braylon Outlaw, of course, is the other one. He shut his recruitment down the other week. Theodore is your lone corner. And then you got your 2 safeties, KJ McLean and Luke Thompson. Of course, your lone 2027 commitment is linebacker JP Peace. But you do have multiple guys that are trending to commit, some of which may commit in the next week. And we are talking potentially within the next 24 hours here with 2 of these guys. So for that reason, I'll go ahead and mention them. 2:30 p.m. tomorrow, I believe Central Time, because he is from West Tennessee, is 3-star athlete. He's listed as an athlete, but he's really a wide receiver. Javonte Smith. He goes to Jackson Northside. I believe it is between Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, and West Virginia for that one. Another one tomorrow, potentially, is linebacker Braden Rouse, who is a 4-star linebacker. And this list that he is deciding between is pretty impressive. It's Tennessee, Alabama, Michigan, and Texas. Last I checked, Tennessee was leaning heavily in favor, or he was leaning toward Tennessee, I should say, but Texas has made a little bit of a late push there. So we'll see if Tennessee can land him. He commits at 7 Eastern tomorrow night. He is from the Atlanta area as well, Marietta. And then the next day, his teammate, Joel Cumbe, 3-star safety, will announce his commitment. I don't know what time exactly that is. I want to say I saw it earlier today, but he will be committing Wednesday. And then Friday, borderline 4-star offensive lineman JB Shabazz. I believe he is a tackle in the class of 2026. He will make his decision Friday at 6 Eastern time. South Carolina, I think, was the clubhouse leader there last I checked, but things can change. It looked like Legend Bay was going to go to Texas A&M for a while, but then there was some intel that came out that, he's actually leaning toward Tennessee the day he committed. So it's never over until it's over with these guys. And then as far as other names to keep an eye on, Kamari Blair and Joel Wyatt are 2 that we've mentioned here in the last few weeks. Wyatt, of course, kicked back his commitment to, I don't know when. He was supposed to commit yesterday originally, but never did. And then Kamari Blair, no commitment announcement. He was trending Tennessee for a while, but I do think Ole Miss is making a push there. So potential to land some big names here for Tennessee. Definitely some 4-stars in the mix there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of names that you just mentioned and everything. And I mean, Tennessee's been on a hot streak, and I don't have it pulled up right now. Maybe you would know. I think Tennessee's up to their 13th in recruiting now, right?
Yeah, they made a big jump just with all these guys that it's gotten here lately.
Yeah, so I would imagine imagine Tennessee gets at least 2 of those guys, if not more. And I'm only going to move up from there, especially if you grab a couple more 4-stars, then Tennessee could have a top 10 recruiting class here soon, which would be nice turnaround.
Yeah, would be a huge turnaround for Tennessee. And a lot of these guys are not your normal blue chip recruits, but you need guys like that in your program, though. good culture builders, you could say, because sometimes 5 stars don't work out. Tennessee has a couple of examples of those guys. One here very recently, actually. I don't think I need to say his name. You all know who he is, but I did see his little profile picture on the new NCAA 26 game. He looks like former Tennessee long snapper Matthew Solansky, not his actual picture, which is kind of funny.
I've been getting a kick out of seeing all these coaches' pictures on there. I know you had to seen the one of Josh Heupel, right?
Yeah, I tweeted it. He looks like he's going to steal the moon.
Yeah.
Well, because here's what's funny. He looks like Gru dressed in Vector's clothing.
Yeah, he sure does.
For those of you who have seen Despicable Me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it is kind of funny. There's several funny ones floating around. Like the Sam Pittman one looks nothing at all like Sam Pittman. I saw it earlier today. But yeah, these coaches are funny. The Belichick one is intriguing to me. I haven't seen it just yet, but that's something I've been wondering. Like Bill Belichick was never himself in Madden for the longest time. So will it be any different with the EA college football game?
No, it's not. I'm pretty sure that his name is something funny on there. I want to look it up, but I guess they really didn't want to get like name, image, and likeness with it because I'm pretty sure that they have Bill Belichick's character is not the same race as him. Yeah.
Is it like the coordinator, maybe?
I'm about to look it up here. No, it's not the coordinator. It's supposed to be Bill Belichick because I think him and Deion Sanders are the only two or the most notable coaches that opted out. So I'm about to find out his name and his picture here because this is kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this.
I saw it on Instagram. I'm trying to see it here on Google. See if we can get it here.
I just remember getting one of those Madden games once and thinking that is not Bill Belichick. Who is that guy? I've never seen him before. You got it?
How do I share it on there?
Just go down, hit present.
Oh, there we go.
And then it says share screen on there. It'll give you an option.
Okay, here we go, guys. Okay, can you see it?
Not exactly.
Okay, let me see.
Gonna need you to click on one of those pictures.
Okay, here we go. Oh, just lost it. Hold up.
No, Jordan.
Oh, I got it. I'm getting it. Let me just close this down real quick. Be patient, folks. You guys are going to enjoy this. Here we go. Okay.
Hector Luna.
Hector Luna right there. Bald with a mustache. That is your new
Not Bill Belichick.
New Bill Belichick. And just in case y'all are interested on here is Deion Sanders, Mr. Kirkpatrick. Not Dre Kirkpatrick. But
is he just Kirkpatrick?
His name's Kirkpatrick.
Yeah, I feel like I just want to conflate the two and just make him Dre Kirkpatrick.
Yeah, he's Dre Kirkpatrick at this point.
Yeah. It's kind of wild that Dre Kirkpatrick's son is already at Alabama. That makes me feel old, and I'm not that old.
I saw that too, and I was like 12 or 13. I'm pretty sure when he was playing at Alabama, and you're saying he's got a son that is
he's got a son. He's got a son there now.
I saw that. I'm like, man, okay. Like, I wonder what was. Nah, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, well, we have more important matters to discuss in the world of Tennessee football. One of which came out later last week, and that is the new generation of Tennessee football Smokey gray uniforms. Tennessee unveiling the Volunteer Spirit is what they're calling these uniforms. And Yeah, I got to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of them. I think Tennessee has done worse with the Smoky Grays in the past. But before you accuse me of not supporting the troops, I do support the troops, and I get what Tennessee was trying to do. But why the two different shades of gray? There was no need to do that.
See, I'm not as upset with them. Like, I wish they went in a more interesting direction with the Smoky Grays. I like the idea behind them, like, volunteer state, the military presence, everything. I thought it was cool. I thought it was also a little interesting that they added those like little track marks on the helmet. But yeah, like having two different shades of gray when they're supposed to be the smoky gray uniforms, a little interesting. I'll say though, they kind of remind me of Oklahoma State.
So here we go. There are your uniforms right here. The pants, man, I can't get into the pants.
Yeah, there's a lot of colors going on there.
Yeah, few too many colors for my liking.
And then the alarm clock numbers. I mean, I will say it's better than the Buccaneers old font back in the day. Much
yeah.
better than that. So
yeah,
that's at least a positive.
So I'm not a huge fan of these. I honestly think what they did last year was better. And I don't get into uniform aesthetics all the time. And so, it's funny because people aren't Tennessee fans when they look at those uniforms that Tennessee comes out with every year, the Smoky Grays, and they say, oh, those things are so awesome. I love that Tennessee wears the Smoky Gray. You talk to the average Tennessee fan, more often than not, it is either a mixed opinion or they absolutely hate them. One of the two.
Yeah, and I mean, I used to be one of those fans when it came to the uniforms. I just wanted to keep it bare bones, like traditional orange and white and stuff. Changed my mind a little bit when Lane Kiffin brought out the black uniforms. I thought that was a cool, like, little one-off thing. But I completely changed my mind when it came around to the blackout uniforms, and then like the smoky grays that Tennessee first got with Nike. Changed my mind a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I don't want Tennessee to get too crazy with it. This uniform design's doing a little bit too much.
Okay, so let's do a little bit of an exercise here, Jordan. There are now 5 generations of smoky gray Tennessee uniforms. Power rank them for me, please.
Are we counting the ones with Adidas?
Yes. Posty says original is by far the best. Is that original Nike or Adidas, Posty?
Oh,
because the Adidas ones, I got to tell you, they were nasty. They were nasty, especially with that white helmet. They did not look good. I had one of those. Okay, original Nike is what Posty says.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with you on that, Posty. I really liked them when they first came out. Like the Smoky Mountains on there was such a phenomenal design. Plus, there was a lot of good memories with Josh Dobbs and company during the times. That would definitely be my number one. Number two would be last season's Smoky Grays. I like the little tri-star, everything. I never thought that Tennessee would ever use that on a uniform, but it's pretty solid. Not doing too much. Just nice little adjustment. Third would probably be the current ones, honestly. The ones that just got unveiled. I'm not a huge fan of them, to be honest. It's interesting that they change it up, but I probably would put it 3 because the fourth would be the Condredge Holloway ones from a couple of years back with the orange shoulders and everything. I thought that I would like those more than I ended up liking them. Like when I heard the concept that they were going to pay homage to him and everything, I thought it was cool in theory, but I didn't really like the way that it looked on the field too much. And then what is there to even say about the Adidas ones number 5? I mean, like the freaking shoulder pad mess that they had going on there, it looked like the back of a pickup truck.
Well, you know what they almost released, right?
Oh man. Yeah, that was I heard
Tennessee dodged a bullet with that one.
Yeah, I heard. Actually, I heard a thing about that actually, because I didn't know this, but apparently, like during the time when Tennessee was with Adidas, the university wasn't in full creative control of the uniforms.
No.
Adidas was, and they presented that to them, and then I think fan backlash of the leaks and everything. They were like, "No, let's not do that." Yeah, that was crazy with the checkerboard numbers and everything, or the checkerboard shoulders. I mean, yeah, was that would have easily been the worst uniforms in Tennessee history, and it would not even be close.
Yeah, and Adidas had already made the urine yellow numbers the previous couple of seasons, so they presented that crap, and that's who Tennessee is. It's not confirmed yet, but it is highly possible that Tennessee is going back to Adidas. In fact, it may be probable, but we'll see what exactly happens there. I'm sure there are more steps to go through with the deal, but it does sound like it is close to a done deal. Did see where Auburn flipped from Under Armour to Nike, but basically kept the same designs on their uniforms. They just got the swoosh on there instead. I don't know. Maybe Nike or Adidas makes that gesture should Tennessee go back to it. But yeah, that I know that it's kind of a mixed emotion because, well, first off, that's what Tennessee won. That's what Tennessee won the national championship in, was Adidas, but um, it is also responsible for some of the worst designs in Tennessee football history. I won't deny that. Okay, so Jordan, you and I are almost symmetrical on our rankings for the Smokey Gray jerseys. I have to agree with the original Nikes being the best ones. And you know what's crazy is like I didn't even notice the mountain design on the helmets until like a couple years after they debuted. It's kind of like it's kind of like San Diego State's football helmets where it looks like it's just this dark red, but you zoom in on it and it's actually like this cool like Aztec hieroglyph. It's just like hidden in there and you don't see it, but until you get a close up picture of it, and then you realize, oh wow, that's really really cool. So, yeah, I have to go with the original Nike ones. Number two, again, I'm in agreement with you. I think the ones they did last year were pretty good. I thought the TriStar worked out very very well. And again, not too much going on with them. I think you kept them relatively plain, which is okay. You don't have to have a lot going on with your uniforms. I mean, there's a certain school out west that does a ton with theirs and has no national championships to show for at all. Meanwhile, there's a school to our south who wears the plainest uniforms on this planet and has tons of them. So uniforms are not everything. Number three, again, going with you on this one, Jordan, the 2025 rendition, the Volunteer Spirit. I definitely think they are better than previous creations, but again, I'm just not crazy about two-tone gray. It's just not a stellar look, I don't think. Again, I like what they were trying to do, but I just don't think it looks particularly pleasing aesthetically. 4 and 5 are where we're going to disagree. I mainly just because of bad vibes, and I don't know, it did happen with the original Adidas ones under Butch Jones too, but having to sit through that Austin P game in 2023, I mean that was a bad experience first and foremost, and second off, like the orange yoke, it would have been cool on an away jersey, and if you had done a white one for a home jersey, that would have been really cool too. If you were able to pull it off. But I don't think it looked good on gray. I really don't think it looked good on gray. When I remember seeing those unveiled before the season started and just thinking to myself, what is Tennessee doing here? And that was kind of, you know, the whole that was what that whole Austin P game felt like. What is Tennessee doing here? Why can't Joe Milton hit guys within 4 yards of him with a pass? Why is he taking Squirrel White's fingers off with them? Like what is the what's going on here? Why is Tennessee struggling against a mid-tier FCS team at home? So it's mainly bad vibes for me with the Artful Dodger ones. Again, I get what they were trying to do, but I don't like those as much as even the original Adidas ones, which I still think were terrible.
Yeah, just not a huge. Here's the funny thing about those original Adidas ones. I was excited a little bit during the time. I thought it was a cool concept, and I actually, you remember that crazy catch that Marquez North
Yeah,
had? Yeah,
I was
that
there.
picture. Yeah, that picture, that pylon picture that he had right there. That used to be the screensaver on my phone for a long time. So I mean, there was a cool little memories associated with them, but like now in the modern day, I'm not really a fan of them.
No, no, I'm not either, which is why they're near the bottom of my list. Um, White on gray is just not a good look for anybody. Unless of course you're a service academy, in which case it's okay. Uh, but I hopefully Tennessee does not do that again with Adidas. Maybe you're a little bit more of an innovative this time around. I did see some funny theories with Tennessee releasing those uniforms this week, like Nike making Tennessee want to run back to Adidas with these new Smokey gray releases, which and that could very well be the case. Um, with that, who knows? But yeah, those are my rankings. I think for the most part we are in agreement, and the two things we disagree on are the ones that we dislike the most.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm glad we got the same top 3 right there too. I mean, I think it's pretty clear like that the original and the ones for last season are the best. I feel like it's hard to argue with that, but everything's subjective, but those are definitely my same top 2 as well.
All right, so I'm about uniformed out with that. We will keep you updated on the Nike Adidas saga if anything develops there, which I'm sure it will over the next couple of months. But like I said earlier, we are getting much closer to football season, and we're already starting to see some early gambling lines released. And some have come out for Tennessee's bigger games this year. Not all of the SEC games just yet, but we have seen a few released for both the opener and then the big three on the schedule: Florida, Alabama, Georgia. So we'll start with Syracuse. Tennessee favored by 13 and a half as an opening line. I did see 12 at one point, maybe on ESPN, but the sports books thinking highly of Tennessee early before that opening weekend, and it's not overly surprising. Both teams are uh, bringing in new quarterbacks and kind of starting from scratch a little bit on offense, but it is a little surprising Tennessee's getting that much of a nod in a neutral game.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too because, I mean, Tennessee's been stellar at home. And I'm not sure what their neutral site record is off the top of my head as of late, but I know that Josh Heupel's struggled a little bit on the road. I mean, I know this is a different environment, like neutral site and everything, but with so much uncertainty with Tennessee and with Syracuse too. I mean, losing Kyle McCord and everything, but almost 2 touchdown favorite. I hate to say it. I mean, as much as I would like to see Tennessee win by almost 2 touchdowns. I mean, I could see it being a closer game than people would expect. I think that's an interesting money line right there for sure.
Yeah, it was a closer game the last time those two met back up in the Carrier Dome in 1998. Of
Oh
course,
yeah.
that game opened a lot of doors for Tennessee. Who knows? Maybe this one does too. Um, and there is, of course, the potential Joey Aguilar disaster scenario, which you would hope is not the case if you're Tennessee, and in which he throws a couple of interceptions and that suddenly becomes a closer game. I don't know if it'll happen this year, but Syracuse is trending in the best direction it has trended in a long time. Of course, Fran Brown finishes last season with 10 wins. Kyle McCord, aside from that Pittsburgh game where he threw 5 interceptions, very nice season for them. They actually landed a 5-star wide receiver commitment from the Miami area last night, which is interesting. I know Fran Brown was a very good recruiter when he was at Georgia, but I thought he was a little bit more heralded for, getting unknown talents out of the Northeast, places like New Jersey, New York, as opposed to, say, um, the down there in the South Beach area, Miami, which, yeah, that's a good commitment for them, and maybe they are trending in the right direction and could potentially rise up in the ACC, which is kind of in need of that power to rise up because Clemson, it feels like Clemson is still good, but it's just not a national championship contender good anymore for Clemson.
Well, I actually did not know that about that 5-star recruit in Syracuse. That's pretty impressive for Fran Brown getting a player from Miami because, I mean, I know Tennessee's gotten players from Florida in the past, but I mean, it's tough. It's tough to recruit there. I mean, because you got Florida, you got Miami, you got Florida State all right there. Not to mention the other schools like UCF and everything. I mean, and South Florida's got like some of the best athletes in the country. So, um, quite shocking that he was able to get a kid from Miami, Florida, to come all the way up to Syracuse, New York. Yeah, I mean, it really does seem like things are trending in the right direction for Syracuse.
All right, 3 more gambling lines on here. Spoiler alert: Tennessee is not favored in any of these coming up, which is not overly surprising. Georgia plus 7.5 in week 3 when they come to Neyland Stadium. And that's not overly surprising. We were talking about this last week with Ryan. I could see that game very much being one of those where it's like a 20-10 type game where Tennessee is not getting blown out, but you never feel good about their shot of winning. There's probably multiple interceptions thrown in that game by the quarterbacks. That's just kind of where I stand right now on that game. Maybe something happens in the first week where my mind has changed and Joey Aguilar goes out and balls out against Syracuse, but that's the only way in which that happens, I feel like. But overall, that's, I think, a pretty fair line from the sports books there.
Yeah, I mean, I got a little bit of a differing opinion. I mean, just because Georgia, I mean, I know didn't have their best season last year as compared to in years past, but I mean, Josh Heupel's still yet to get over the hump with Georgia, and I know that they're favorite, like you said, 7.5. Honestly, I probably would think it's closer. I would say probably closer to 9. If I was the one making the odds, but I mean, what do I know? I'm not no Vegas insider or anything like that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully we'll see how Joey Aguilar and everything ends up being and everything. But right now, I mean, there's so much uncertainty. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee lost by 10 points, 2 touchdowns. But I guess we'll see.
All right, next one is Alabama in Tuscaloosa. This one I kind of disagree with. Alabama getting an 11.5-point nod here. And they really do think Ty Simpson is going to fit the offense much better than Jalen Milroe did. And that would make sense. We also thought Nico was going to fit the offense way better than Joe Milton did here. It goes both ways. It's a two-way street. I get why Bama's favored, obviously, but I would have had it maybe a few points less than that. Now, granted, Bama was like a 9.5-point favorite 2 years ago. Tennessee was up 13.5 and then just didn't come out of the locker room, and Bama covered the spread because of it. So that could always happen. But Alabama has the talent. It's just there's still a little bit of uncertainty with the whole thing, I feel like, for me to justify them getting that much of a nod.
Yeah, I mean, I thought 11.5 was a little bit too high. I know that Alabama is one of the most historic programs in college football history and whatnot, but I mean, And Alabama did decently well last year. I mean, not by like Nick Saban standards. I mean, you losing to Vanderbilt, getting crushed by Oklahoma. I mean, I feel like we still don't know who Kalen DeBoer can be as Alabama's head coach. And I mean, he's still got Saban players on the roster. So I just don't really see 11.5. Not to say that Alabama can't win by 11.5, but I thought that's kind of high considering Tennessee beat Alabama last year. And Alabama, like, they struggled a little bit at times. And Kalen DeBoer, like, he's only been head coach for one season. And then from my experience being in Tuscaloosa at Bryant-Denny, I didn't think it compared anything to like the atmosphere at Neyland. I mean, albeit Nick Saban was the coach during the time, so they may have gotten bored with their own success. But I didn't think Tuscaloosa was as rowdy as a place I thought. So, I mean, I think Tennessee would have a tougher time. I think Tennessee would have a tougher time at Georgia, honestly, if they played them in Athens. I think they'd have tougher time at that than they would be with Alabama. I don't really agree at the 11.5. I agree with you on that.
All right, and then lastly, you have got Florida in the swamp. Gators are favored by a field goal. You won't get any argument from me there. Tennessee has only come within single digits, twice down there in the last 15 years or so. And both of those were miracle wins for Florida. But outside of that, Tennessee has not looked good in the swamp. I think this one is justifiable, and it could evolve over the course of the season just with, the fact that they're not playing the third week of the season. They're playing in the third week of November now.
Yeah, I mean, with all the offseason hype that's coming to Florida and DJ Lagway and them, like Florida, they turned it around a lot last season and did better than a lot of people expected, because going into that season, schedule's brutal. It was the most brutal schedule that I had ever seen for a team. And they ended up winning like 8 games or so, which I thought that they were going to be lucky to win like 4 based on their schedule. So based on like the offseason hype of Florida and everything, I'm a little shocked that they only have it -3, especially considering Tennessee struggled in the swamp quite a bit in the past 20 years or so. And it's one of the most difficult places to play in all of college football. I'm a little bit surprised it's not higher, just because like you just would assume with all the hype and then how Tennessee's lost Nico and everything, and there's concerns there. Hopefully Tennessee gets the win, of course, but I'm a little shocked that it's not at least like 6.5, to be honest, because Gainesville's rough.
Yeah, I would think that it could be close to a touchdown. Anything more than a touchdown, I feel like, could be a little bit excessive this far in advance. But I think this is just kind of the way of splitting the difference. Maybe they're just assuming Florida does not start off the year nearly as well as some of us are thinking. So I think that could be a possibility here within this early line. But we shall see as the season progresses what that line should really be. But that's all I have on early gambling lines. And I've got a couple more little notes for us here to end the show. It was discovered sometime last week, I believe late last week, that the Georgia police finally got the arrest warrant for Grant Firking, who is, of course, at the center of many different legal problems just with scamming people over money. They have yet to find Grant, but obviously they have the warrant now, so they can go and get him. And we'll update you when that happens. But we did an entire segment on this in a show. What was that, 3 or 4 weeks ago? Go back and check it out. I'll post the link in the comments. But yeah, it's not good what he's doing, and honestly, he deserves what's coming to him.
Yeah, I completely agree, especially with all the popularity they had around Tennessee and how people respected him. How I heard people say that he was a great teammate and everything. And then all these allegations of the scamming and stuff coming out. Now there's a warrant for his arrest. See, I don't know enough about the criminal justice system, but I feel like in today's age, you'd be able to find these guys a lot quicker. Like, I'm kind of wondering what's going on there and why he's not been arrested yet. But no criminal justice major by any means. But of course, we'll keep tracking the situation as it goes on, and just see what happens. And it's a shame that so many people got scammed and taken advantage of. So yeah, just surprising situation, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very sad situation, honestly. Link is in the comments if any of you guys would like to go back and check that out. But that's all we have on Grant Fricking. We did have one more thing come out today that will interest some of you. John Talty of CBS Sports released the top 25 list of bad college football coaching hires this century, since we are now a quarter of the way through the century. And to no surprise, Tennessee had some people on there, a couple different submissions. Two of them made it. Two of the hires this century made it. One of the bad ones was left out. And it's a little bit surprising, but when you see the list, it's not actually that surprising that these guys were left out. Or at least this guy was left out. But the two guys that made the list made the top 10. They were low top 10, but they did make the top 10. So at number 10, you have Derek Dooley. And we already talked about him a couple weeks ago. In his wannabe political career, I guess you could say. Haven't seen any updates on that lately. But yeah, he is number 10 on the list, and for good reason. You start 6 and 7. You think you can build off of that season, but you go backwards in year 2, and then you just stay neutral at 5 and 7 with the team that was capable of, honestly capable of winning the East that year if you play a little bit of defense. I felt like Tennessee should have been way better than 5 and 7 that season. But you had Derek Dooley and Sal Sinceri running the show, so it was a disaster. So he is number 10 on the list, Jordan.
Yeah, I'm honestly shocked that he's not higher than the other person that we're going to mention, because I didn't know the rankings going into this, but I mean, you already said the overall records, and not to mention all the talent he had. I mean, I still think to this day that some of those Derek Dooley's teams were arguably some of the most talented teams I've seen since I've been watching Tennessee, but they did absolutely nothing with that talent. And then on top of that too, I'm pretty sure Derek Dooley only had one ranked win, if that. And like,
I don't even know what ranked win it was. I couldn't tell you, Jordan.
Yeah, then I guess he didn't, because I thought there may have been like a ranked South Carolina team that
he been never
a while.
Beat South Carolina.
He never did.
No.
Then exactly. I'm shocked that he's at 10 and not higher, to be honest. Because
let me see if I can pull up the list here for us, because that will explain why he is so low on the list compared to some of these other guys that we have seen in here. I'll go ahead and tell you, Tennessee's next coach on the list is Jeremy Pruitt, not Butch Jones. Not Butch Jones. Butch Jones did not make the list, which is a surprise probably to some of you. But I just think in the grand scheme of things, there have been worse head coaching hires across college football than Butch Jones at Tennessee, even though it is a very forgettable period in Tennessee football. But Jeremy Pruitt is number 7. And I think there's good reason for this. I mean, number 1, Derek Dooley never had a loss like Georgia State. That never happened. Number 2, he plunged the program into darkness with a cheating scandal. Derek Dooley never did that. Jeremy Pruitt was cheating and losing to Georgia State at the same time. You can't be doing that and expect to keep your job. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I guess the more that you lay that back out to me, it makes a little bit more sense. I'm just thinking about like the Kentucky win that he had at one point and how he was able to turn that. I think it was what 2019 season around there towards the end. But yeah, the cheating scandal and then only winning 4 games, which is the lowest that Tennessee's ever had ever. And fun fact, by the way, um, before that season where Tennessee only had 4 wins, there was only 2 schools in the FBS that have never lost more or never won less than 5 games, and that would be Ohio State and Tennessee. And then Jeremy Pruitt, of course, broke that. So now it's just Ohio State, unfortunately.
Well, Butch Jones was actually the one to
Oh,
break
not
that.
Butch. I didn't. Did I say Butch Jones?
You said Jeremy Pruitt, although Jeremy Pruitt did have a 3-win season, although I don't consider COVID a real year in sports.
I'm getting mixed up, but yeah. I guess it was
Okay,
Butch
so
Jones.
here's the list. You've got 6 guys ahead of Jeremy Pruitt. Ty Willingham from Washington. He did have an 0-12 season in 2008. That is something Tennessee has never had. Number 5, Charlie Weiss at Kansas. Some of these Kansas guys have got to be pretty high on here. I would imagine just with how bad some of those teams were from basically 2007 all the way up to 2022. Chad Morris at Arkansas, number 4. That is by far the worst SEC hire I've ever seen. Probably going to be the worst SEC hire any of us see for a long time. Because Jeremy Pruitt lost to Georgia State. He did not get blown out like Chad Morris did by both Northern Kentucky Northern Texas or North Texas and Western Kentucky. I'm conflating. They lost both of those games by 4 touchdowns, which is very, very bad stuff. You don't want to be doing that as an SEC coach. That's a job breaker right there. 2-2 against group of 5 opponents. Did not win an SEC football game. And then past that, I don't know most of these guys. Tied for first, you have Mike Price at Alabama and Michael Haywood at Pittsburgh. Of course, the Mikes are the Alabama version of the decade of dysfunction, which is, of course, what Tennessee entered after the departure of Lane Kiffin, or really the departure of Philip Fulmer from the football program as the head coach. But that's at least your top 7 right there from Jeremy Pruitt onward, because he was 7, and then you had Derek Dooley at 10. And I was talking with some people about this earlier today. Jeremy Pruitt is, to me, in that same group of coaches like Will Muschamp, who they were just meant to be coordinators. They should never be head coaches, ever.
Yeah, I mean, his defenses were pretty good when he was at Alabama. And I know when Jeremy Pruitt was first hired, I mean, I'm sure you were probably the same way. I mean, you get a defensive coordinator from Alabama and you see all their success that they had with Nick Saban, and you're just very hopeful thinking that he's going to be a pretty good coach. I mean, a lot of these coaches have from the Nick Saban coaching tree, but Jeremy Pruitt, huge disappointment.
Yeah. I am of the belief that the Sabanites have polluted the sport for the most part, aside from one. And he's established a dynasty over there in Athens. Meanwhile, some of the Georgia has had 2 guys that have in theory committed espionage at 3 different schools in the SEC East. They all did it at Florida, South Carolina, and Tennessee. And that is, of course, Derek Dooley and Will Muschamp. They made those teams bad in order for Georgia to get good. That's your classic message board theory. Because somebody made an edit to Will Muschamp's little profile, because he's like some kind of defensive analyst at Georgia now, committed espionage at 2 SEC East rivals so Georgia could win 2 national championships, which it could very well be the case. You never know. You never know.
Insider trading here in SEC.
That could be the case. All right, Jordan, that's all I got for tonight. Do you have anything else that we did not mention earlier in the show, other than the EA college football game, which we did briefly touch on, that is coming out later in the week?
Yeah. Well, I guess with the college football game, I haven't played it yet or downloaded it. But Jermon McCoy is supposed to be like a 94 overall, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool. That's probably the highest player since Eric Berry, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's very high. Did see Ryan Shumpert, who we had on the show last week. He reported that Boo Carter ranks as a 78 as a wide receiver, which
Whoa.
ranks him as Tennessee's third highest wide receiver in the game, which, I mean, not that player ratings mean anything to real college football, but that's mildly concerning, isn't it?
I mean, I think it's about fitting. I'm surprised they have him listed at wide receiver. It must be like the structure of the game, because I know it's like you can't make every position like play both ways. So I don't know what they went about that, but like 78, I would think that he would be lower considering that he hasn't played wide receiver. He's definitely just that high based off of his athleticism and like his speed and everything that he had on defense. But yeah, I don't know. 78, probably about right. I mean, for a receiver, for safety, then that's a different question. I think he should be higher up than that. I would probably put him around like an 84 or something like that. I don't know what he is in the game at safety, but I don't know. I used to be a big ratings guy back in the day.
Yeah, I'm not anymore. Well, anything else, Jordan, for tonight outside of EA player ratings?
Not any Tennessee things in particular, but I'd like to say it was awesome seeing everybody in the comments today. It was a fun little addition here. I enjoyed that a lot. We really like it when you guys connect with us and support the channel. So yeah, if y'all want to comment some more, like, we enjoy the questions. It makes this fun for you guys and it makes it fun for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely makes it more fun for us. We always enjoy connecting with you guys. And if you'd like to connect with us more, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee at the Voice of College Football Network. We would really appreciate it. It would help get you guys more of the content that you enjoy as well. So, again, we appreciate all the support we can get. And yeah, we will talk to you guys again next week. For Jordan Binkley, I am Tucker Harlan. See you guys later.